Return, O virgin daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's house of Joseph. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging house of Joseph here in North America. Welcome to another edition of Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. I'm Sophania Pappas, Director of Communications for BYNA, or BINA as we like to call ourselves. And with me is Al McCarn, Executive Director of BINA as well. And we are going to be interviewing Courtney Rebovich from South Carolina. And that was a very interesting interview. And what really struck me is the incredible sense of the father's signature over how everything came together for them as a community over there in Greenwood.
That's the truth, Stefania. Courtney and Nick Rebovich have been fellowship leaders for less than 5 years. And she will tell the story of how they came along, first of all, walking in Torah, and then just meeting one person after another, meeting Pete and Kelly Rambo, meeting others who have come to this walk with Yeshua in Torah in South Carolina, and they've actually got a community now. So I think folks will find this very encouraging, very exciting, and very inspiring, even indeed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and listen to Courtney, and then after that, we have music of Melody Joy, and then a midrash from our elders, Barry Phillips and David Jones, a fitting midrash on the subject of grace, which is really good in this season of Yom Kippur. So without further ado, Tefania, let's go to Greenwood, South Carolina, and listen to Courtney Rebovich. Welcome to the interview segment of Reunion Roadmap. Today, we go to South Carolina, and we are visiting with Courtney Rebovich. Hey, Courtney, welcome to the Reunion Roadmap.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I am from South Carolina. We are currently in Greenwood. We have lived in Charleston, and I met Nick, my husband, at Clemson. And we have been in this walk for, I would say, about 6 years in this walk, but he was raised Catholic in Catholic school. I was raised Baptist in Baptist school, and what a combination. We put that together and ended up in charismatic, non-denominational land. And then we got the call. Basically, one day, you're crying out, and Father told me to read Hosea, and I read it, and I said, okay, I don't see it. What do you want? And he said, read it again. Okay, I read it again. I don't get it. Read it again. Okay. I don't get it. I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but I know it has to do with Hosea. So about that time, I was looking to keep bees. I emailed a friend of mine who I knew was a beekeeper, and I said, I'd like to take your beekeeping course. And on my email, I had on there that, if you need prayer, let me know. Jesus loves you. And so she emails me back with a link to Jim Staley's, at the time, Passion for Truth. And so check this out. I think we're a little Babylonian, but I'd like to get together. Sure. You can pray for me. Okay. And I don't normally, watch things people just send you on the email like that, but I had some time that day and I watched Truth or Tradition, busted my chops about the holidays. And I called my husband, Nick, and he's at work with his boss in the car, who is the youth director at his church. And I said, honey, I don't think I can do Christmas anymore. And he says, we'll talk when we get home. And I said, okay. When he got home, I'm like itching all day. Am I losing my mind? Is this guy whack? What's going on? Anyway, Nick watches a few minutes and he says, that's this, no. And he goes to eat and I start praying and I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, if this is you, you've got to show my husband. I cannot go do Christmas at this point. And this was around the fall feast. This was just before after Yom Teruah, about this point when I'm getting this. So then I'm looking up holidays. He watches the video. At the end of it, he then goes, get it all out of the house. All out. I said, okay, let's do it. So I was like, okay, well, what's a sukkah? What is this? What is a sukkot? I don't know anything. So I just built a graham cracker and peanut butter sukkah. That's all I need to do. I didn't know anybody who did any of this because the lady who sent me the video still wasn't really knowing what to do. She just knew something was wrong. And so the next day I said, well, what else do we have wrong? So then I opened up the Sabbath can of worms and told my husband, I think we need to look at that. And we did. We looked at Jim's to eat or not to eat. Okay, that's that. And by the end of the week, I'd watched about everything I could on that, researched everything I could, for hours a day. And then I watched Identity Crisis, and my world was really rocked at that point. I just had never heard it. And so anyway, our lives changed within a month drastically. Our families just got whiplash. It was soil that was ready. So that's how our lives changed and put us on the path to go, okay, what else is wrong? What else am I doing wrong?
Now, when did this happen?
This was I'll say Father began to move us in this direction in 2009. He picked up our lives from Charleston and moved us back upstate near our family. And it's the quiet sticks. There's nobody. It's rural. And so if I was down in Charleston, we both were working full time. When we moved up here, I became a homemaker, homeschool mom. And we went to one income when I was making good money down in Charleston. But it was good. We had to humble some things to get to this point. And so that was 2009, December when we moved, and it was 2012 fall feast when we got the wake up memo.
So 5 years then that you have been walking.
This will be our sixth coat. Yep.
When the Lord started telling you these things in 2009, 10, 11, 12, I assume you were in church.
We were the faithful. We went all the time. I've read my Bible every day since I was little, prayed every day, and I would go home at lunch. And I turned on what I didn't know was Messianic at the time, Paul Wilbur and Linium Varda. And I had a Yahweh CD I had got at the Christian bookstore. And I would worship to that for an hour at lunch and just pray.
Wow. So as you're making this transition, a couple of questions I'd like to ask. First of all, how did your children take it? And second of all, how about the people you knew in church? How did they take this?
Yes. So, okay. We have a daughter at the time who was 7. Basically with her, we said, okay, I want you to watch a little bit of this about Christmas. So we kind of let her watch some Truth or Tradition. We didn't watch the whole thing. It's too long for a kid, but we let her watch some key parts. And she started crying. And she said, well, I don't want to do that if God doesn't want us to do that. And then we adopted another son, Reuben, a year ago when Father told us to go after that little lost sheep who was out west in Texas and leave my 99 to go get that one. And so kid-wise, we've been blessed. We didn't have, I know if I had teenagers, it would probably be a little bit harder. The rest of our family was kind of like, what? But my mom has, at the same time, my mom has 4 kids, and 2 are the kids, I would say the good kids, and 2 are the other kids. And my brother, the same time that I woke up, the year I told them, I said, well, we're not going to be doing Christmas this year, y'all. Here's a video. And I just handed them Truth or Tradition and said, we're not doing it. This is why, if you want to know why. Didn't go into, bashing or, And my brother said, well, you shouldn't. It's pagan anyway. And he's out west at ORU getting his degree in Hebrew at the time, which is funny. So Levi, my brother, and me are doing this. And my mom's like, what's going on here? My other 2 are over here and in church, or you guys are doing this. So we both got a wake-up call the same year, which was really weird. So anyway, my mom has kind of quit church, quit the holidays, and quit eating unclean. Nick's family's Catholic. And because his sister had already gone atheist and vegan, it was really not that big a deal for us because, hey, at least we've got religion, right? So not so bad there. They accommodate when we go for Sabbath, and, they just let us chill and rest. We don't cook, that whole thing. So they're very amenable. I would say it hasn't been the hardest of a lot of the stories I've heard. My sister came out of the house yelling at me because we weren't doing Christmas to tell me it's Jesus' birthday. But she doesn't even go to church, so I don't know why it mattered. She just threw the DVD back at me and didn't want it. For church, we're very involved. I was helping with the church ministry. The year before we left, we were at one church, and it was an Easter Sunday. And Nick was doing the sound booth, and I was doing the children's church. And it was Easter. When we left, we both were nauseous, and we did not know why. And we just knew we couldn't go back. That's all I knew. So we started looking for other churches because we were like, oh, there's got to be something. What is it? And I'd heard this one church did Passover, but apparently they'd only done it one time, and they weren't doing it again. They'd done the kitsch thing, and that was that. So we had gone there looking. We're like, well, that would be cool. Maybe Passover. Nothing there at the church was what we're doing, but we had heard that there might be a chance. Anyway. So we left the one church. I told the pastor, we can't come back. I'm sorry. I hate to leave you like that with the kids, but I can't. Just couldn't. I knew Father was selling us. No, we both did. So that was how the church thing left. Well, then our friends, we had best friends, and I had just called them. I was very excited, you want to tell everybody. And I didn't tell them, I didn't understand all the answers yet. You don't even know what you don't know yet. You don't even know what questions to ask. And so I called my best friends and I said, my birthday's on Halloween. They were calling me to tell me happy birthday. I was like, I used to be the person who handed out the tracts at Halloween. And Nick was always like, our house is going to get egged one day, honey. You've got to quit. But anyway, but we still did the Hallelujah festivals at church. Well, anyway, I told our friends I wasn't doing Halloween anymore, and I wasn't going to be doing Christmas, and they didn't talk to us again. And these were our best friends that we would stay at their house when we go to Charleston. They kept my daughter. It was a lot of rough cut ties that it's not that you're trying to cut the ties, but people just start that number at you, Yeah. Like, you're just creepy, weird. So
now I know that you and Nick do have a fellowship. So Why don't you tell us about that?
So when we first drew out, I called the lady who sent me the link, Donna Boozer, and I said, you want to get together for coffee? My stepdad at the time had a guy named Daniel Rendelman working for him, and I knew Daniel was Messianic, but that's all I knew. I just thought it was another church. Yeah, you love Israel. That's cool, And so I called Daniel and I said, I get it. I can't do this anymore. I need to know the feast. I need to know it all, and then you realize you're never going to learn it all, but you can try. So anyway, Daniel puts me in touch with a lady here who has been praying for a fellowship for about 5 years. She'd been praying, Miss Connie Emerson, y'all met her, been praying for 5 years trying to find somebody. So they invite us to this place in Newberry that was an old bar, like in the 20s. There's no windows. It's cinder block. It's scary, and it's by the railroad tracks. So we go, and my husband goes, I'm a little nervous about going in here. And he really was. If he didn't know Daniel, we would not have gone back. It was, yeah. So anyway, we go there. We meet the Rambos. That was their first time there too, I think. And we hit it off. And, we're like the tiny family. We have a kid. Everybody there's got like all these kids. They got tribes. So we're like, okay, we still feel a little weird. And all these people seem to be speaking this other language, and I'm really not sure what's going on. And we don't know what's going on. But I know Daniel, and I know he's okay. So we just hang out and get to meet Miss Connie. I start calling Miss Connie about every day. She probably got really tired of me, or she got excited. You know how we get, one of the two. So I'm asking her, I don't know what I don't know, but I know I need to do the feast. And she's like, okay. She coaches me through, you kind of have to disciple somebody along when you're new. And so we start meeting for coffee on Thursday mornings with Daniel teaching us a little Hebrew. I just remember the first word was ohel. He said, it's sukkah, here ohel. I said, okay. So we start learning. That's my first Hebrew word, other than hallelujah, which, you don't even know is Hebrew. So anyway, he's teaching me and Miss Donna, and Donna brings two friends, Sally Goldman and Janet Parsons. So it's me and the elderly ladies and Daniel. And so we're having a good time. And then we start saying, well, we need to do this Sabbath thing. And it takes us an hour to get down there, which, in this walk, you're happy to drive an hour just to meet people who get it, who's not going to make fun of you, and who you don't have to worry when you eat their food or whatever. We get Daniel to start coming teaching on some Friday nights with another family who had been in church here at the church we were at before. And they have since moved back to Ohio. And just Father has just kept bringing people and planning people. I tell you, we have had 1 to 2 visitors a week for the last I don't even know. And people, this past Shabbat, I had somebody on this side who drove an hour and 15 minutes, somebody over here who drove an hour and 15 minutes, and somebody behind me who drove an hour and 15 minutes just to be near fellowship, just to come to little old Greenwood in the middle of nowhere, no interstate. We have a 1-story little bitty mall. We do have 2 Walmarts.
But there you are in Greenwood, South Carolina, and you have all these people coming. And I have been blessed to participate in a couple of your fellowship meetings. So how many do you regularly have coming on a Shabbat?
Well, we've outgrown houses. So we went with Pete down to the little scary building in Newberry for about a year until he's like, okay, you guys you're bringing everybody from Greenwood here. You might as well start something in Greenwood. Go for it, Courtney. Go for it, Nick. And so we did, and we were doing it at our home. Like, every week then, which after a while got a little exhausting. So we cut back and we said, okay, y'all, we have enough people. If you want to do this, you need to step up and house, So eventually we got enough to make rotations, and we made enough for like 8 rotations. So you don't have to do it once every 8 weeks. And then I would say last year we pretty much finished outgrowing the homes. We really, what y'all see when we go to the Rambos, it's Greenwood's in the house and packing out the house. So we have anywhere from regularly, I would say, and I'm talking with kids because we do have a lot of kids. We do our homeschool groups together. We do our field trips together. I mean, we've got enough kids where thankfully and the hope for anybody who feels like, oh my gosh, I'd love that. That's so nice. It's only 3 years ago since we started doing that, and it's grown. And we met 2 new homeschool families that aren't even in the walk. This past Yom Teruah, when we threw our party, we had 2 new families come and another one that may be coming next time. So just being out there, just doing it, and in the homeschool community, there's ears, and they just, what's this? Oh, yeah, Bible things, cool. It blossoms. But I would say from 30 to 50 when we have everybody, you're looking at least 80.
What I've heard you talk about in this last few minutes is you've got worship meetings, you've got feast celebrations, you're homeschooling, so you're networked that way with helping to educate one another's kids. How about business? Do you find business to do within the community?
Yep. So what we've recently done is we're a tight group, the thick as thieves business, and so we often group text each other what we're doing or whatever. The guys have started they're doing the Josh Tolley book, what's it called? Evangelpreneur. And so they meet on Zoom on Wednesday nights and do a guys meeting, and they talk about that and help each other with their business questions and trading business. Oh, you've got a goat. You can trade me for some auto work or whatever, that it is. Oh, you need AC work. I've got that, And then a lot of us women, we are the crafty, crunchy bunch. So we're all swapping our herbal this and that's and crafts and stuff. And so we have a website that I was coordinating everything until we got Reuben. And then I said, okay, we got to step back. It's too much. So the guys came up with a website. And so now we've got a classifieds page. We've got here's our events page, and it's closed. So the public can't get on it unless we approve them in, because we do screen folks. We've got a page for, we have a ladies fellowship. We have a new moon fellowship. We have, we have a tight-knit group, and that if you come to our crew, it's not like a back row Baptist mentality. You really need to participate. So if you want to do something with the kids, you coordinate that. If you want to host the gathering, you need to get that coordinated. If you want to, whatever, like host a women's group or host the men's group or do something, have a bowling day, whatever. We just want you to participate, whether you're in charge of the giving jars or you're in charge of the cups and the plates for the fellowship to bring each week, or you're in charge of bringing a speaker. So we've got that if we need it. We all want to kind of do our part, since we don't have a way of each person hosting now. We don't have a regular building. We don't want a regular building. We still like, but we can lay low and go into small groups when we want to. But we have a building or 2 or 3 that we use when we need to. And since we're at the bigger fellowship point, we generally do that. This
is going to be very interesting and inspiring, I think, to a lot of people out there. So if they'd like to find out more, how can they get in touch with you?
They can email me at realtea@yahoo.com, which is realtea@yahoo.com. And our website for the fellowship, like I said, it is closed. But if you're in the Greenwood area, we would, after you've come to fellowship once or twice, and we've gotten to know you, that's when we'll approve your request to join in. But it's greenwoodfellowship.org.
Greenwoodfellowship.org.
Yeah. And we do service stuff. I mean, we do the homeless shelter around here. We do prison ministry. We do several things, adoptions. We got several adoptive families. So there are a lot of those aspects too, that fathers just knit us together.
Well, Courtney, looks like we are about out of time, but thank you so much for sharing your story with us and the story of Greenwood Fellowship. And now here is Melody Joy singing Lift Up Your Hands from her album, The Beginning, available on melodyjoyofficial.com.
as we stand here, jump for joy for Yeshua is Lord. Yeshua is Lord. Yeshua is Lord. Yeshua is Lord. Yeshua is Lord.
Hello and welcome to the Midrash portion of today's Reunion Roadmap. Barry Phillips here and David Jones, both elders with B'nai Yosef. David, I trust that you're doing well today.
Yeah, doing great, Barry, and looking forward to this program today.
Oh, awesome. We'll jump right into it. As normal, we normally run out of time before we can fully investigate what we're trying to talk about. David, I was reading recently in 2 Corinthians, the first chapter, and it's a passage that has always intrigued me. When you get down into verse 9 and 10, Rav Shul, the Apostle Paul, is indicating that they had been in a situation where they had despaired of life. They had already determined, we're going to die. Thankfully, I haven't been in such a situation where I just knew this is it. But he says, and again, this is Scripture's translation, indeed, we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in Elohim who raises the dead, who rescued us from so great a death and does rescue, and whom we trust that he shall still rescue us. Prior to that, he makes a statement that this grace or strengthening or favor or an ability to overcome had been given to them in an abundant measure, and that they longed to come to the Corinthian congregations to share that. I was meditating on that this morning and thinking, it seems to me that whatever he received or they received in this crisis situation was not only substantial, but substantive, or can we even say that grace or favor or chesed is tangible? How do we look at the favor or the grace or the intervention of Yah's strength to be a tangible something that we can actually pass along? Is there a possibility to that?
That's a great question. I like how Brad Scott puts it. Faith is substance and evidence. You know, and that goes along with the grace that's been given to us. You know, so we have within us the faith in Yahweh that He will give us everything that we need in the midst of no matter what we seem to be facing. And man, I reading this passage with you, Barry, I'm looking, can you imagine being at such a place to where you say, that's it, we're going to die. We just know that God's going to resurrect us. I mean, when when we go through hard times and things like that, I mean, we normally pray for deliverance, or we pray for the means to get through it, or no, all that's already out the window. All that's gone. We're dying. And, and we're saying, but God will resurrect us. To be at that place is amazing in itself. And then they made it through. And so I think so. Yeah, did Yahweh extend His grace to them to do that? Yeah, but then the question is, okay, so is grace just unmerited favor, or is grace an empowerment and an ability to do what He's asked us to do? You know, because here He is. So let's just use an example of possibly being shipwrecked. You think maybe, and saying, yeah. Okay, so it's okay. You'll make it. You know, I'm going to give you favor that you didn't merit, and you just need to paddle a little faster. You know, I mean, that's not going to do much good in the midst of an actual physical, you know, danger that you're facing and looking at. But when we understand that His grace is an empowering to us to equip us to do what he said. Now comes the question of, Shaul, are you doing this because the Father has put it in you to do this, or are you doing this because you just felt like it was something to do? And now he's on a mission. He has a purpose. And because he has the purpose and he's fulfilling this for the Father, I believe this is where he's being extended that grace to make it through these things. And that's why he has that hope that they can trust. Even if he dies, Yah will resurrect him. It makes me think of Avraham when he put Yitzhak on the altar.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. You know, the shipwreck that Rachel describes in detail in Acts, they had taken all the ship's tackling and sails and thrown them overboard. They had lightened the ship of its cargo, tied it together with ropes. They had done everything that they knew to do, and the storm was so great and fierce, they still were despairing of life. And it wasn't 14 days, Rachel said, we had neither seen the sun or any light. Can you imagine being at 2 weeks in a hurricane level storm like that? And he said, a messenger has appeared to me tonight and let me know that if we'll stay with the ship, all of us will survive. You know, Rachel was such a high-level Sadiq that all of the ship's crew and captain were given safety and safe passage in the end result because of Rav Shul. You have to go and appear before Caesar. So therefore, everyone on this ship will survive because the mission that has been entrusted to you. I would dare say that I don't know if that's the exact same circumstance that he's referencing here, but it really does fit. At least it's comparatively available to us in that regard. That his mission was of such importance that Yah says, "I will give you the crew."
Mm. There's a question for that, Barry. I mean, so here we have Shaul being in such a place with Yah's grace being given to him, and because it was on him, it had an impact on those that were with him. So is this something that Yahweh was giving to the people that were there with Shaul just because they were there with him?
Kind of makes you want to question who you are hanging out with.
Yeah.
You know, you find the guy or the lady that is absolutely vital and hang close. You know, I asked a question or made the statement one time, if you want to survive the last days and be among those that go into the kingdom of life alive, then make yourself indispensable to the kingdom's effort. That you cannot be one of those that, you know, are expendable. So that means stepping up your game and really walking in a level that requires that you actually be around. I like what you referenced earlier, David, that faith, in Brad Scott's definition, faith is
substance and evidence.
Substance and evidence. So faith and concepts like grace and mercy are not theoretical or
abstract.
They are concrete. They are tangible qualities that can be passed on. And it is up to you and I to give them a physical realm revelation. For example, I can tell you that I have great faith, but until I find a way to demonstrate in obedience to his word that faith, then it's just a concept. It's just a figure in my mind. So if I say I believe, and then I go and I minister to someone else's need, whether it's giving shelter or clothing or food or laying hands on them and praying for their deliverance and their healing, and it become tangibly evident that they have received such, giving them my time and being broken with those that are hurting, if I will demonstrate what I say to believe is true, then faith has become substantive. It's not just a theory. The same thing goes in showing mercy. We all want mercy. And if you want it, you better be willing to show it.
Exactly.
If you don't want to be judged, then stop judging everybody else. So that, there is an acting out of these spiritual concepts to give them life and form. Otherwise, we don't know whether we really have these things that we claim or not, do we?
Well, we see things like, Abraham believed Yah and it was counted to him as righteousness. We see things like, but Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. I mean, when we see things like that, how are we supposed to take that? These are men who didn't just have abstract thoughts about Yahweh or who he was. These are men who had personal experiences with him. And they heard him and they followed him. And I think that's something that we need to learn from too. I mean, if we say we have faith, like James says, show me. Because it's not something that you're just going to talk about. It's something that's going to be evidenced, and it's something that can be seen. So your faith is noticeable in you. And I think about, even going back to Noah here for a second, when he was rescued, right? He was left in this ark. His family was with him. Why? Because he says, because you have found grace in the eyes of Yah, because you, Noah, are a righteous man, because you. And so this makes me think of the scriptures where it says, and so even your whole household will be saved.
So the grace that Noah had was not in theory. It actually delivered him from judgment.
But at the same
time, that grace took
on
the form of a boat.
But it didn't stop judgment.
No, but it gave them the ability to overcome,
yes,
and persevere in the middle of it.
And I think that is where grace is not just sufficient, but abounds.
So leads me to a question then. Are we willing to have to persevere through extreme trying circumstances in order to receive something that's not just for our benefit, but even more for someone else? I'll give you a quick case in point. I know we're running quickly out of time here. When I was a young evangelist, I wanted these war stories where I could use to describe how, give some color and some illustration to my sermon points. But until you go through those, you don't have those war stories. So I had to be willing to go through trying circumstances. Now, when I shared the report, people were encouraged and thinking, well, if the Father did it for him, he'll do it for me. But I had to go through the stuff first. It's not fun going through the stuff. And you actually despair as to, will this work or not? So when you're in a crisis and you get on the other side, now you've got a war story that may help somebody else. But they got to go through it too. You can't prevent hardship.
Yeah. It makes me think of not just like my first thought of, well, grace is transferable, but it's not really transferable. That's not the best word for that. It makes me think of, for lack of a better term, I'm just thinking of like lighting a candle. When a candle lights another candle, does the first candle lessen its flame? No, not at all. And to me, that's kind of how I'm thinking along those lines. When Yahweh shows us his grace, and when he shows us the things that he wants to do through us, I think others can be lit off of that.
Actually, the more you give away, the more you retain for yourself, do you not?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're just multiplying without loss of the original source. So if we receive grace, a strengthening from Yah in a crisis situation, and we never try to give it away, can we expect it the second time around?
Now there's food for thought.
I just had a thought.
And we don't have time for that.
So Yah evidently, David, will entrust to us trying circumstances, knowing that we will seek him he will grant to us what we need, and we won't keep it for ourselves. So Yaakov's words, count it all joy when you fall into diverse tribulations and tests. You're about to receive the mercy and the strength of Yah.
Amen.
Last thought, we're getting ready to run out of time here.
Well, I think when the Father gives us something, it's for the purpose of giving it away.
I think that's well concluded. If you have questions, comments, things you'd like for us to discuss, please contact us at reunionroadmap@b'nai-yosefna.com. Thank you for your time. Thank you, David, for joining me today. And we hope this has been an encouragement to all of you.
Thanks, Brad.
Shalom.
Once again, here is Melody Joy singing The New Jerusalem from her album The Beginning, available on melodyjoyofficial.com.
The time when there is no more night, when your people can come out of hiding, when your people can stop all the fighting, when peace is established across the nation, and we bow before you in adoration. At the New Jerusalem, when the war is done, when the world is new and the tribes are one, the New Jerusalem, that's where we'll be, just worshiping the King of Kings, the God of love. Overcome by light, when evil is cast out from before you, as we lift up our hands just to praise you, as we stand face to face with Yeshua Messiah, we'll scream and we'll shout out, hallelujah, at the New Jerusalem, when the war is done, when the world is new and the tribes are one, the New Jerusalem, that's where we'll be, just worshiping the King of Kings, the God people, your people. Come and deliver us. Come and deliver us. Come and deliver us. Your people, your people. Come and deliver us. Come and deliver us. Come and deliver us. Your people to the new Jerusalem. When the war is done, when the world is new, the tribes are one. The new Jerusalem, that's where we'll be. Just worshiping the King of Kings, the God of God of
What an awesome song by Melody Joy, The New Jerusalem. Stefania, when you hear that song, what comes to your mind?
I think of the incredible time that we'll be together as a family during the millennium. And at the end of that time, we see the New Jerusalem coming down, and we're together as a family experiencing this incredible moment. That's what really brings to my mind.
Now, that's the glorious thing. But let me tie this back to what Barry and David were talking about regarding grace.
Yes.
We get excited when we think of what you just said, the New Jerusalem, we're all together as a family. Are we just as excited when we have members of the family who we don't like very much?
That's exactly, that's a good one, because I mean, just like Yeshua said, who is my neighbor? And he's getting at, how we're to treat one another, and how we actually treat one another with grace, like it was said in the Midrash, appropriately so. And I think we need to really consider that, how much grace we need to extend to one another, because after all, I mean, all of us are merely a breath away.
Well, that's the truth. Now, we can think about people who might not look like us, might not talk like us because they speak a different language or a different dialect of English. But what if they actually do look like us and talk like us, but believe differently? Are we still going to extend grace to them, even if we have different ideas of what the kingdom of our Messiah looks like?
Amen. And that is the challenge for all of us. And the Father is presenting that to us right now as an opportunity. How are you going to deal with your brother in mutual respect and understanding, and truly love him, regardless of what he believes, even if it's different than you? Because after all, none of us have a corner on the truth, not a single one of us. And that's what we all have to keep right in the forefront of our minds.
That's right. That's right. And it extends in all directions. Now, we at B'nai Yosef North America believe we are part of the returning nation of Israel, and we understand that the nation's got to be complete for our King, Messiah Yeshua, to rule it and for redemption to come to the whole earth. Okay, what I have just stated is going to be offensive to somebody, whether they're a Christian brother or sister in a traditional church, whether they are Jewish, either Messianic Jewish or Orthodox traditional Jewish. What I've said is offensive. However, what I've understood in moving around many different circles is that there are a lot of people building the kingdom who have different understandings of what it looks like, but we're all building toward the same goal.
Amen.
Well, Stefania, that concludes the time we have for this program. Folks, thank you for listening to the Reunion Roadmap. We do hope you enjoy this feast season. We do hope that the Lord meets you in Yom Kippur and that he tabernacles with you over Sukkot. And until we're able to meet again, Chag Sameach.
Thank you for joining us on the Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging house of Joseph here in North America.